Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game schedule for Sunday, May 12th, 2024. It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there watching Ron's Rundown this morning. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the premium picks tab of pickdawgz.com. Got my daily rundown best bet in Major League Baseball, as well as my MLB season pass. Alrighty, we got a loaded card, 15 games in Major League Baseball. Here are those games. The Arizona Diamondbacks take it on the Baltimore Orioles. Zach Gallen and Dean Kramer are your projected starters. Zach Gallen, we've mentioned the concerns with his game have been on the road, where, last year we saw his ERA, which was much lower at Chase Field. So far this year, that's certainly been the case, but he had a really promising start in that last game against the Cincinnati Reds. And I know the Reds are struggling a bit offensively recently, but more so against lefties. It was still at Great American Ballpark, one of the more hitter-friendly ballparks in baseball. He went 6 innings of one-hit baseball, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts. So exactly what you want to see. And if Gallen can give the Diamondbacks another quality start here, which I think he will, even though the Orioles are a solid lineup, I think Gallen still gives them 6 innings of 2 3-run ball at the most. And, misses a few bats. He's got a good chase rate. I think the Orioles very high chase rate offensively, so he may be able to get some weak contact. And, Dean Kramer so far this year has not pitched too well at Camden Yards, an ERA above 6. Last year, his ERA was above 4 at home, so he, while he's been one of the more profitable pitchers in baseball, and he's starting to win some games, recently. Last year, we saw him win a ton of games for the Orioles. I just think that the Diamondbacks are worth a shot here on the road. I like Arizona on the money line in this game. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Boston Red Sox. Mackenzie Gore for Washington, no official starter for the home team. I think Gore bounces back from a tough start in that last game against the Blue Jays. Now, the Nationals still went on to win that game 11-8. Shows you how strong this offense has been. But, Gore, he struggled against the Blue Jays team and hits lefties very well. The Red Sox, though, they have a very high strikeout rate against lefties this year. That benefits a strikeout-dependent starter in Mackenzie Gore, who's got 42 Ks in 34 innings this season. And I think it's a good spot for him, even though it's at Fenway Park, which can be a tough place to pitch for a lefty. I think Gore puts together a quality start here. Now, the Red Sox could be a bullpen game. We've seen them have to really manage that pitching staff this year because of all the injuries that they've had both in the bullpen and the starting rotation. And while it's been a solid effort so far, when the team ERA is very low, at Fenway Park, that bullpen ERA is a little bit steep, and I do worry about it in a game like this with how pesky the Nationals have been, how profitable they've been on the money line. I'm going to go Washington on the money line in this one. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Bailey Ober and Alek Manoah are your starters. Alek Manoah, I think eventually he could get back to the level that we saw him when he was, a Rookie of the Year candidate in the American League, and honestly one of the better pitchers in the American League at the time. But he just hasn't been that guy in such a long time that you're starting to lose some, faith in his game, and I just can't back him in this start. I mean, he gave up 6 earned runs, 7 total runs in that first start at the Major League level against the Nationals back on May 5th, 2 home runs, 4 walks to go with it. He had the 6 strikeouts. We know he's able to miss bats, but the control's always a concern. The hit by pitches, the walks, and then the home runs. If he misses, outside the zone, it's one thing. You miss down the heart of the plate, it's a home run. It's just really tough to back Manoah. Now, Bailey Ober's also had some issues, leaving pitches down the heart of the plate, but he's in much better form since a rough start to the season. And I think the Twins lineup, with how well they've been the last couple of weeks, really last month, I got to go with Minnesota in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Detroit Tigers. Justin Verlander and Jack Flaherty are your starters. With Justin Verlander through his first 3 games of the season, we mentioned that, Verlander, the Verlander that we're used to the last 2 decades has been the guy that's just been locked down, good strikeout stuff, limits sharp contact, doesn't really, have issues with the free passes, the walks, and he just wasn't that guy through the first 3 games. Despite having, good numbers on paper, he was walking guys. He had 7 walks in his first 3 starts combined. His strikeout numbers were all over the place, and he was giving up a couple of home runs as well. And that's why when he faced the New York Yankees at Yankee Stadium, we faded him in that one because that's one of the best lineups in baseball. It's at Yankee Stadium. It was a bad matchup for him, and he gave up those 7 earned runs and 3 home runs, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts in 5 innings of work. I am really concerned with Justin Verlander's game right now, and I can't back him in this spot. Jack Flaherty I think is the much better option to start this game. While he's been inconsistent, he's still been a really solid option for the Tigers in this rotation. His last 5 games, 3 earned runs or fewer in 4 of those 5, and even the one game he went over, it was 4 earned runs through 5 innings. Not a miserable start. He's earning strikeouts, 56 Ks in 42 innings, and I think the Tigers, take this game on the money line. I think Detroit is the much better bullpen, starting pitcher, while the lineup, I think, definitely goes to Houston. I still think the Tigers, this is a good spot for him to get kind of have a breakout game offensively and get to Verlander early. So give me the Detroit Tigers on the money line. Next up, it's the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Miami Marlins. Zach Wheeler for Philadelphia, and making his season debut is Braxton Garrett for the Marlins. Now, Garrett pitched really well in the minor leagues this year. 24 innings of work, good strikeout numbers, really low walk rate. I think he only had 4 walks given up in those 24 innings. Only a few home runs as well. He pitched really well in the minor leagues. And last year he pitched well at the major league level for the Marlins in about 160 innings, a sub-4 ERA. So, well, it's been a disappointing season for the Marlins, that's for sure. And, they've even the management has mentioned they don't expect to make a playoff run this year. Garrett is still an important piece in this rotation, and the Marlins will look for him to continue to develop as he still is a young pitcher, age 26. So, I think Garrett pitches pretty well in this game. Now, last year he had a little bit of issues pitching at Lone Depot Park, believe it or not, even though it's a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, and most Marlins pitchers pitch better at Lone Depot. But I'm not too worried about it here. It's a Phillies lab. It's very strong against lefties, so I still like Philadelphia to win this game in the end, especially with Zach Wheeler on the other side. He's the ace in the Phillies rotation, one of the best pitchers in the National League, sub-2 ERA. Now, Philadelphia doesn't always back him up. It's why his record is 4-3. Even though he's pitching this well, either the bullpen blows a game or they don't give him enough run support. But recently they've been able to do so. He's won. The Phillies have won each of his last 4 starts, and a lot of those have been blowout wins. To me, I expect the under to hit in this one. I'm going to take the Phillies on the run line as well. Give me the Phillies run line and the under. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Chicago White Sox. Logan Allen and Mike Soroka are your starters. I know Logan Allen has really struggled recently. Last game, 7 earned runs against the Tigers. He was only able to go 2 1/3 inning. But he's facing the White Sox here, who arguably the worst lineup in baseball against lefties this year. Especially in the last few weeks, they're near the bottom in the league in most important hitting metrics. So when you look at Allen, if there was a spot to bounce back, this would be the game, in my opinion. And Michael Soroka on the other side is not much better. And when you look at his season-long numbers, 6.34 ERA, 0-4 record. He's given up a lot of sharp contact. The strikeout numbers aren't really there. So even if Allen struggles a bit early on, gives up some runs early, I think the Guardians' bats are going to be able to back him up. And if this is a close game late, the Guardians have the much better bullpen. So I'm going to side with Cleveland in the end of this one, especially with guaranteed 9 full at-bats with them as the road team in this game. So I'm willing to take them laying the 1.5 runs on the run line. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Miles Mikolas and Bryce Wilson are your starters. I mentioned that Bryce Wilson had a few regression concerns based on his early season numbers, but he's been really impressive the last couple of games. 6 innings each against the Rays and Royals, 6 strikeouts each. So, not really known for a guy to miss a lot of bats, but he's been able to earn those strikeouts recently, only giving up 1 earned run his last 2 starts combined, and he's got that ERA sub 3. Now, I don't think he's going to be at that, I don't think that ERA is going to be that low for the rest of the year, but right now he's pitching really well. The Cardinals offense has struggled mightily. Mikolas has not been great. And I think Milwaukee's a play in this one. Mikolas, last game, 6 earned runs, 4 innings of work against the New York Mets. He struggled both on the road and at Busch Stadium. So give me Milwaukee in this game on the money line. Next up is the Texas Rangers taking on the Colorado Rockies. Dakota Hudson for Colorado, no official starter for the Rangers. You'll have to see who the official starter is for Texas, but I'm rolling with the Rangers in this game right now on the run line. Dakota Hudson really struggling this year, 0-6 with that ERA above 6, and he's a pitch-to-contact guy. He doesn't really miss a lot of bats, doesn't earn a lot of strikeouts, but he's also walking a lot of guys, so he's missing inside and outside the zone. He has more walks than strikeouts, had 5 of them in that last game against San Francisco, and if he can't find the plate, he really just takes his team out of the game early on. He's not been pitching deep into ball games. He's only gone more than 6 innings or 6 innings or more in 1 of his last 5 starts. He only went 3 2/3 that last game. And if you're forcing this Rockies bullpen, which we know is one of the weaker bullpens in baseball, to enter the game in the 4th or 5th inning, it's going to be an uphill battle. So give me the Texas Rangers in this one, laying the 1.5. Next up, the Cincinnati Reds taking on the San Francisco Giants. We're going to see Frankie Montas and Kyle Harrison as your starters. I like the Giants in this one. The Reds have really struggled against left-handed pitching recently. They've been near the bottom of the league in OPS, isolated power, you name it. Harrison pitched really well in his last game, even at Coors Field against the Rockies. 7 innings of shutout baseball. The Giants have won a ton of his starts, especially recently, 5-0 in the last 5 games. And I don't trust Frankie Montas in this start. I know he pitched pretty well in his first start back from injury against Arizona, but Now, the Giants, I think, will be able to get to him for a few runs. Montas has been very inconsistent this year. His strikeout numbers all over the place. The control's been all over the place. He's got good numbers right now with a sub-4 ERA, but I do expect regression going forward. And I think San Francisco, while they're not a great lineup, I still think they'll get enough. They'll find enough offense on him early to win this game in the end. So give me San Francisco on the money line. Next up, the Kansas City Royals taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Seth Lugo and Patrick Sandoval are your starters. Two starting pitchers that are in great form right now. Sandoval, we know the early season struggles. He really, the control was all over the place at the beginning of the year, but he sharpened up. Only 3 walks in his last 3 starts combined. That's exactly what you want to see. 17 strikeouts his last 2 games against the Pirates and Phillies. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. And you're facing a Royals lineup that's been inconsistent against lefties, but overall, bottom of the league in most important metrics, OPS, isolated power. So I think Sandoval pitches well on this one. On the other side, Seth Lugo has been a very efficient starting pitcher, and there's a reason why last year he was, amongst the league leaders in terms of quality starts, because he gets outs pretty quickly. He doesn't really waste a lot of pitches. He doesn't really earn a lot of strikeouts, but recently he's been able to miss some bats. But he's just a guy that you can pretty much rely on to go out there, give you 6 to 7 solid innings. Sometimes he gets into trouble like we saw against the Orioles on April 21st, but he's faced a pretty tough schedule recently. He's done pretty well with it, and I think he pitches well against the Angels, who have been one of the weaker lineups in the American League. Give me the under in this Royals-Angels ballgame in the first 5 innings. Next up, the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Luis Gil and Tyler Alexander are your starters. Luis Gil's pitched well this season, a sub-3 ERA. We mentioned that he was the guy that, in spring training, because the Yankees had the injury to Garrett Cole, they were looking for, another starter to take over that 5th spot in the rotation. He really won that job, and he's pitched, a lot better than they expected. 3-1, that 2.92 ERA. Great strikeout stuff. He's got 45 Ks in 37 innings. The control is always a bit of a concern for him. He, walks 24 walks already this year. We saw 4 of them in that last game against Houston. But he's been able to get out of a lot of jams. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. I think he pitches well in this one, but I also think Tyler Alexander, not a bad matchup for Tampa Bay pitching-wise. The Yankees have struggled against lefties this year. Not the biggest fan of Tyler Alexander's game, but I think he can give the Rays 4, maybe 5 decent innings. I'm going to lean towards the under and the Yankees in this one. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Diego Padres. Walker Buehler and Yu Darvish are your starters. Walker Buehler struggled a bit in that first start of the season debut against the Marlins, but he only went 4 innings. He still had 4 strikeouts, no walks. I think, and I don't really put too much weight into the current ERA. It's such a small sample size. I think he's still a great option in this Dodgers rotation. I think he pitches pretty well and probably deeper into this ball game against San Diego. But, Yu Darvish on the other side, while he's pitching well this year and the Padres have won each of his last 4 starts, it's never easy facing the same lineup. This is going to be the 3rd time now to start the season. He pitched against them in the Korea series and pitched well in that game, but it was also a very short outing, 3 2/3 innings. Then the next game against the Dodgers, even though it was a win for San Diego, he only went 5 innings. He gave up 3 earned runs and a home run with 2 walks and only 2 strikeouts. Now you face them again. We know the Dodgers have been one of the best lineups against righties. I think they have the big advantage here offensively with the familiarity, and they've faced Yu Darvish so many times the last couple of years. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers here. Darvish has been solid against LA in his history, but this is just a really tough ask for him. I'm going to go with the Dodgers on the money line. Next up, the Oakland Athletics taking on the Seattle Mariners. Alex Wood and Luis Castillo are your starters. After a rough start to the regular season, Castillo has just been much sharper since that game against the Cubs on April 14th. He's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in every start, and his strikeout numbers are there. The control's a lot better. I think he pitches well in this game. And while Alex Wood's actually coming off his best start of the season, 6 innings, a shutout ball against the Rangers, only 2 base hits given up. To me, it's just tough to go toe-to-toe with Luis Castillo, and the Mariners have been pretty decent against lefties in the last few weeks or so, and only a few runs, I think, are necessary to win this game and cover the run line if you're Seattle. So I'm going to lean towards the Mariners, lean towards the under in this game as well. And the final game we're talking about for the Sunday card in Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets on ESPN, 7 p.m. Eastern. Elder and Severino are your starters in this one. We know the Mets were almost no-hit on Saturday. They were down to their final out in that game, and J.D. Martinez hit a consolation prize solo home run to get the Mets on the board, but still a 4-1 Braves win in the end. Probably a little bit disappointing for the Braves to not get that combined no-hitter. Max Fried was excellent in that one. But still, nonetheless, a victory on the road against your rivals, you'll take that all day long. But in this spot, though, I think this is a good spot for him to kind of bounce back offensively, especially after such a sluggish day at the plate. You're facing Bryce Elder, who we've mentioned. We do worry about his game right now, and we saw that last game against the Dodgers. I know you're not facing the Dodgers here, but you can't ignore the 7 earned runs, 3 home runs, and 4 walks in that ball game. Back-to-back starts, giving up 4 walks or more. And Elder, the problem we've mentioned, the major league level, he just gets behind the count very, consistently. 3-0, 3-1, 2-0 counts. It's really tough for a starter like Elder, who you could consider more pitch to contact, to get back in these at-bats. I think the Mets are going to have put together a much better performance offensively here, have a much better approach to these at-bats. And Luis Severino has been very solid for the Mets this year, sub-3 ERA. He's exactly what they've needed since Senga's still in the injured list. And we know the Mets have lost a lot of good starting pitchers in the last couple of years. DeGrom, Verlander, Scherzer, and with Senga on the IL, they need guys like Severino, a nice veteran pickup in the offseason to step it up, and he's been solid. I think he pitches pretty well in this game. I know that last game was not his best, giving up the 4 earned against the Rays, but he was still competitive, still kept the Mets in that ball game, had 6 strikeouts through 5 innings. I'm going to go with the Mets in this one and take them on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. But don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.